Hey guys, it's Amy at Zoe Beck, and I'm going to do kind of a twist on the Top 5 Wednesday topic from this last week. I didn't know really about the group. I mean, I've heard about Top 5 Wednesday and that there was a Goodreads group, but I only just clicked on it yesterday. And I know I understand it's moderated by Sam on Thoughts on Tomes. I have her video linked down below from this last Wednesday, as well as the Goodreads group below that. So the topic this last week was books I loved before Booktube. Well, I only started Booktube about in January. So, I mean, that was when I first stumbled across all this. And so, I know the topic, you're supposed to either go, before you book blogged or, maybe join Bookstagram or, like did something bookish online. Well, I decided to go old school and pick some books that I liked before the internet. Or at least before I had access to the internet, because I consider that was kind of more college. Anyway, so for me. So we're going to do a lot of books that I read either right around my teens. Let's put it that way. They're books that I read in my teens. So here we go. So the first one I'm going to pick, please ignore the really bad cover, but that's when I bought it, and I'm really glad I did. It was Three Musketeers by Dumas, and I read this in high school on my own I was not told to read it or anything. I actually wanted to read it before the movie came out, but the movie cover one, whatever. Oh, well, whatever. I don't care. It was cheap at the time, and, I was a kid. Anyway, I think I actually read the first time I read it from a copy from the library, and then I got a copy later of my own. And I have read this book. It's actually in pretty good shape considering that I've read it. Anyway, so again, this is The Three Musketeers, pretty much a classic. And I think it's part of the D'Artagnan series, which I think there's like 3 books. So it took me a long time to get the 20 Years Later, which is the middle book. And then I had The Man in the Iron Mask for years. But I now have all 3, so I think I'm going to try to read, I think it's only 3 in that series. I have to double check, but I want to reread this and then read the other books as well. I feel this was a really great classic, and I really enjoyed it. As I said, in high school, I did not read a lot of classics outside of the classroom, so it's very odd that I picked this up, but I loved this book, and I'm impressed that I read such a chunker back then for fun. So another book I want to bring up is actually a series, but I did discover them in the early 90s. And that was Bill Crider's Sheriff Dan Rhodes Mysteries. I think this is book number 4. My dad has most of my books right now. He was trying to read through the series. But these are great little mysteries. I got like the first 5 in a pack at the used bookstore for a couple bucks, and that just started me on this. He is still writing this series. As I said, I showed this book in one of my other videos that I'm going to try to read this one in September, because I this is book number 22. I have 23, and then 24 just arrived this last month. So I have a couple to catch up on, so I'm going to do a little quick catch up. But Sheriff Dan Rhodes is the sheriff of a small county in Texas, and it's great little like small town. Like characters pop up from other books that you recognize from the other ones, and it's just it's a great little community that has a lot of death. But I love this sheriff. He's one of my favorite characters ever, just because he's so he has such flaws, but he's such a good person, and he does what he can, but he's not perfect, and he always gets hurt when he goes out by himself without his deputies. It's hilarious. I just love it. Anyway, it's done really well, actually. I'm just not all the time, but in a lot of the books, it's funny. But anyway, so I would totally recommend this if you're looking for a cozy mystery. These are awesome, and again, he's still writing them, and you should be able to find probably your library if you can't find them used at first. If not, I know on the internet you can find anything, but I recommend those books. I think Too Late to Die is the very first book. So the third one I want to bring up is one of the, my cousin graduated from college the year when I finished middle school. So when I was going into high school, he gave me a lot of books before he moved, because he was going to college in town. So he gave me a lot of books that he didn't want to take with him when he moved on to his new job. So he gave me a lot of Stephen King's and a lot of Dean Koontz's, and then he gave me some fantasies that he liked as well. And this is one of the ones he gave me, which I'm so thankful for. But he gave me David Eddings, the Belgariad. Belgariad series. And so there's 5 books in this series. Pawn of Prophecy is the first one. They're all pretty short. It's a pretty fast read. I devoured these. These were really good. They're fun. I mean, they were fun. They're not super over the top. They're not super complicated either. But it was really well done. I think these are great stepping stone if you do not read a lot of epic fantasy. I think this is a great place to start. I just had a lot of fun with these. And again, I read these when I was 14. So I read these, and then there's 5 books after that in the Malarian series, and those are they're connected because the people in this go on to that one because this follows Garion, who grows up thinking he's nobody special, but then things change and someone's out to get him, and it just sends a series of events that leads to the climax in this the first series. And the second series is when he's older and more things happen that he has to deal with. So I love this series. There's a couple companion novels as well about the wizards in here because they are long-lived, so they have a long, rich histories. Those are really good after you've finished these books. I would definitely read the first 10 first, read the 2 series first before reading those. They think they're, as I said, they're really quick reads, and I really encourage you to read them. So the next book is one that I would say really pushed me to read a lot more horror at the time, and then because again, I think I read this when I was 15, and I admit I picked it up because it had to do with vampires, and the cover was just awesome, and that's Necroscope by Brian Lumley. Now, I think it's really funny looking back, but I took these books to school on purpose because I wanted people to ask me what the hell I was reading. That's funny, isn't it? I just remember someone saying, "What the heck are you reading?" Because all these books have these kind of skull covers on them, with like the little vampire stuff, and it just, I think it's just so, I don't know, but they're so good. That was the other thing, is I devoured this. This blew my mind. This book is like a combination of, this horror novel has like spies and an E branch of the government, which means ESP and mental abilities and psi people, and then it has the vampires who are kind of alienish from another dimension, and they're trying to influence people, and then there's Harry, who is this young guy who kind of gets caught up in this stuff, but he's a necroscope, which means he can talk to the dead. And there's a character who's into neuromancy, and he can, he talks to the dead, but he tears them apart as he does it. It's just gruesome. And there is so much going on in this, so many characters, and so much more than just a vampire story or just a horror story. I mean, there's just so much in here because you had your intrigue from the thriller part from the spine, and again, it was the British against the Russians in at least a couple of these first books. But it was just, again, these were awesome. I'm so glad I read them. Maybe I read them when I was too young. I don't know. I enjoyed them, and again, there's several series in this. The first 5 follow Harry. The next series is 3 books, and it follows his twin sons in another dimension. And then there's another series, another trilogy after that I have not gotten to, which I need to. It's been a long time since I read these. So that has to do with, I think they go to Australia or something. There's another invasion of some sort of the vampires. And I can't remember. I think it's part of the British E branch that's why we're going there. But I can't remember. It's been so long since I got those books that they've been on my shelf forever. So they're on my, hopefully to get to at some point. But I would recommend these if you like horror. And then again, they're not like classic vampires. I think it's really well done because it was just phenomenal. And I probably read them when I was too young. Anyway, that's okay. They were awesome. I still love those covers. And then, as no surprise, my number 5 is going to be the book that really got me into fantasy and probably got me into reading most of these books, just because I became a much more dedicated reader after reading this book. And that was the Dragonbone Chair by Tad Williams. This is the first book in the Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn series. Again, one of my favorite series of all time, probably the favorite series, actually. And I love this book. The first book is awesome. And I love this world. It follows Simon, who is a kitchen boy who gets caught up in all the political intrigue by accident, just by being in, in the shadows and hearing things, and then also being kind of an assistant to Dr. Morges, who is kind of the historian on site. And this is just a classic, I think, epic fantasy novel series, and I recommend this to anybody. So, and of course, I've gushed about him, and I just love these characters because, again, the new trilogy that just came out deals with them as well, and the characters from this book, some of them cross into that. It's just a wonderful. Anyway, I love that book. So, anyway, so that is my take on Top 5 Wednesday on Sunday. But oh well, I enjoyed this, and I'm gonna probably maybe do more Top 5 Wednesdays later on. But at this point, I kind of twisted this again. My books are before the internet. That's kind of sad. Anyway, or it dates me. Anyway, so hey. If you like this, let me know. And, did you guys read these kind of books when you were in high school? I don't know. I'm kind of curious to know. Because I feel like I read kind of some weird stuff. So, anyway, I liked it all. So, anyway, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.